It's Tuesday, the 23rd of January, the 12-day moon. Jupiter is high and bright. We've had an improvement in the weather. I don't think it'll last too long. I'll give you an idea of what it looks like up there. I can see clouds spread across the sky. They're cumulus clouds, fair weather clouds. They may obstruct the views for tonight. Here's what the moon looks like. Brilliant, and it's not coming to focus right now. I've already got the observatory set up. The idea is to resume Mathematica Galactica, but I wanted to capture some images of galaxies that were in short shift due to focus problems. And the interesting thing about it is I had to reset the focus again today. So I have no idea why it would have shifted, especially after I locked it down. So what I'm going to do is mount the camera. We're going to start at NGC 650, and then what I'm going to do is skip along, finding studies of interest from the 650 to 750 series that are particularly appropriate, at least initially in my thinking, to the Mathematica Galactica 2 project, which will feature the various bands of radiation and their magnitudes, the blue band, the visual band, the J band, the K and H bands. All of these have different frequencies, and there's lots of data available on this for some kind of mathematical exploration. So let me set up the camera. What you're seeing here is Alpha Aries Hamal, and I'm using it to synchronize, so you can look for galaxies pretty much to be in this location on the screen. We are going to have issues with occasional cumulus clouds and the presence of the 12-day moon, but I've got the focus set right, and I'm going to check out probably, just like I said, galaxy of interest. They're probably going to be brighter and larger, more edge-on, face-on, and a few of the faintest galaxies in the series, just to get an idea of how deep we can go, especially overhead. Okay, our first study for the evening, despite the 12-day moon, is quite visible on the screen. The stars look nice and sharp. Right here where Hamal was is NGC 653, a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.4, 1.5 by 0.2 arc minutes, spiral with an A, lowercase ab, 243 million light years distant. We're getting full aperture of the scope on it, even though we're at 35.5 degrees, and our right ascension at this point is 142.25. A good view despite the moon. I may be adjusting the brightness of the screen a little bit to enhance the contrast. We'll see. Everything's in focus. I selected this particular galaxy because it is an edge on with a 7 to 1 aspect ratio. Wow. NGC 656 is also visible on the screen. Both this and the previous galaxy are well positioned in the sky's middle third. We're at plus 26 degrees. This is a magnitude 13.4, nearly face-on, 1.5 by 1.3 arc minute, spiral with a barb of the lenticular class, 178 million light years distant. We're at plus 26 degrees, as mentioned before. Notice that distance, 178 million light years. I've been doing some research on redshift, and redshift values don't always fall in very close. They're not precise in terms of being the same for galaxies that have been declared to be of the same distance. It's definitely something that needs to be looked into. So there is our view of NGC 656. Okay, here's NGC 658. It's a galaxy in Pisces, only 12.5 degrees above the celestial equator, but culminating, or slightly culminating. It's magnitude 12.5, but I selected it because it's an oblate spiral, rather large, as 3 by 1.6 arc minutes. Spiral with a lowercase b, 134 million light years distant. The galaxy is quite visible on the screen. It shifted a little left of where Hamal was. It should be interesting. This is a class spiral with a lowercase b. There is information on the skylive.com. I do encourage people to go there. They have lots of really good information. And it shows you a nice Hubble divoculars a diagram of what all these meanings are when you see a spiral with a lowercase b, for instance. You might want to spend some time there looking into this feature of galaxies. I selected NGC 660 because it's a galaxy in Pisces. It's up in the sky's middle third, but it's magnitude 11.2 and very large, meaning very low surface brightness, 8 by 2.9 arc minutes. So it's about a 3:1 aspect ratio. Spiral with a bar and a lowercase a with some peculiarities, p, a mere 41 million light years distant. I am seeing extensions on the screen, and you will be too. So not a bad view for probably a galaxy with maybe a 14th magnitude average surface brightness on a 12-day moon night. Very nice. Oh, by the way, when I cite the Hubble de Vauquelins system, that's a morphological system. Basically, it's based primarily on the way the galaxies appeared when they were first evaluated and included after the NGC catalog was created, probably in the 1930s. We've dropped a couple degrees further south, but still the sky's middle third. The sky looks pretty dark up there, actually, for the moon. This is NGC 665, galaxy in Pisces, magnitude 12.1, largish, 2.4 by 1.6 arc minutes. It's a lenticular spiral, 245 million light years distant. We're at plus 10.5 degrees. The view is not bad on the screen. I did turn on IR, so we're adding, hopefully, some of the brighter elements of galaxies. For instance, many galaxies may be listed as 12th magnitude, but when you get down into the K, the J and the K and the H band, magnitude can go up by 2 to 3 to 4 magnitudes in brightness. So one of the things I'll be investigating is that delta to get a better sense of galaxies by morphological type in terms of both radiative and re-radiative characteristics, which tells us about stellar luminosity versus matter that's basically been excited or matter that's been agitated to give off vibrations of wavelength of a different frequency. So it's going to be an interesting exploration in Mathematica. NGC 669 is a nicely aspected galaxy in Triangulum. Magnitude 12.3, it's 3.1 by 0.6 arc minutes, which means a 5:1 aspect ratio. It's a spiral with a lowercase ab, 215 million light years distant, plus 35.5 degrees. We're not getting any aperture block. The view is actually quite good that I'm seeing on the screen. Probably better than when the moon was less progressed earlier in the season, but the sky seems to be particularly clear tonight. One of the things I want to point out is I suspect that edge-on galaxies like NGC 669 are going to have a greater delta between the blue-violet and visual bands, which I think is 441 nanometers and 455 nanometers in wavelength, compared to the J, which is about 1220, H and K. And I think the J, H, and K will probably be much brighter than expected because we're having to get the light through the dark bands that bisect the galaxies. This should be another quite fine galaxy to view, and I'm seeing it right there. It's NGC 672, a galaxy in Triangulum, bright, magnitude 10.9, large, 7.5 by 2.6 arc minutes, spiral with a bar and a lowercase c, but it is proximate, 22 million light years distant. We're at plus 27.5 degrees. I do hope to give you a view of 891. It should be approaching culmination at any point now. But first I want to get through the 650 to 699 series by skipping around, of course. NGC 674 is also NGC 697. I'll have to file that away in memory. It's a galaxy in Aries, and what's nice about it, it's magnitude 12 and largest, 4.4 by 1.4 arc minutes. Spiral with a bar, lowercase bc, which a bc kind of, in reviewing the Hubble diagram, I'm not going to say de Vauquelins because I'm not sure about how that's pronounced or even how it's spelled. BCs tend to be like several times removed from lenticular spirals. So you have your S spiral O's, which are lenticulars. Then you might add a letter like an A, and that means it's once removed towards the less organized end of the galaxy morphologies. You start adding B's and C's, and it gets you further and further from the lenticular classes, and that's something we want to look into. Here's actually a very nice view of NGC 674. Our next galaxy, NGC 675, is a galaxy in Aries. It's of particular interest because of the lunacy. It's faint, magnitude 15.5, 1 by 0.4 arc-minute spiral with a lowercase p, which usually means peculiarities, as I recall. 239 million light years distant. It's in the sky's middle third at 13 and change degrees declination. If we are getting a view of that, that's very promising. And I am seeing a couple of fainties right there, and that one is probably the fainter galaxy. So getting a 15.5 magnitude galaxy on a 12-day moon, I'm encouraged, because I may have to push the schedule later in the season and go later in the moons and etc. and right through lunar cycles in order to capture the NGC catalog in totality this year. NGC 676, it was selected because as a galaxy in Pisces, it's kind of exiting out of the sky's middle third. It's also magnitude 10.5, 4.2 by 1.6 arc-minute spiral with a lowercase a. 67 million light years distant. We're at almost 6 degrees in declination, so we are pushing a little bit south. I can't be sure if we're seeing the galaxy on the screen. It's going to be somewhere up here as we go further south. We are looking to the west, by the way, so that's something to keep in mind about views being flipped a little bit. As it turns out, NGC 677 was almost right up with 676. It's a galaxy in Aries. There was hardly a tick in the stepper motor. It's a 12.2 magnitude, 2 by 2 arc-minute size elliptical. I'm not sure what class it is. I'm assuming that ellipticals are brighter in the visual and B bands than other types galaxies because there'll probably be less absorptive gas and dust between the stars to convert the radiation of the stars into longer wavelengths like the J, H, and K band. But we have to look into it, and you can't just base it on a single galaxy. You have to do a lot of number crunching on a lot of galaxies in order to confirm something like that. 677 is at plus 13 in the sky's middle third, and we just saw what I think is a meteor that flashed through the screen. NGC 678 is a galaxy in Aries selected because it's brightish, magnitude 12.2, but also kind of edgy on 4.1, largish by 0.8, spiral with a bar and lowercase b, 127 million light years distant. We're at plus 22 degrees, and as you can hear, we probably have a chopper coming into the local hospital here for some kind of emergency. I hope all goes well with everyone involved. Over the chopper, NGC 680 is another galaxy in Aries, magnitude 11.9, 1.8 by 1.6. I selected it because it is a lenticular spiral class O with peculiarities, which should be interesting. 130 million light years distant, we're at plus 22 degrees, so well placed in the sky, and it's quite visible on the screen. NGC 684 is a galaxy in Triangula, magnitude 12.4, 3.4 by 0.7 arc-minutes, spiral with a lowercase b, so that should be 2 times removed from the lenticulars in my estimation. 161 million light years distant, it's at plus 28.5 degrees. I like that aspect ratio. It's something I want to look into, and the galaxy is visibly aspected right there on the screen. NGC 687 is another galaxy. This one's an Andromeda. We're at plus 36 degrees. I don't think we're not getting any scope blockage. I've selected this magnitude 12.3, 1.4 by 1.4 arc-minutes because it's a face-on lenticular spiral class O. 234 million light years distant. It's at plus 36 and almost a half degrees. NGC 691 is another galaxy in Aries, brightish, magnitude 11.4, largest 3.4 by 2.5 arc-minutes. That's a spiral with a lowercase bc, 120 million light years distant. We're almost at 22 degrees. I like the brightness, I like the size. However, and the classification is kind of off down to the right on the Hubble Divoculaires morphological chart, which should be interesting to get some data on this. Here is our view of NGC 891, Galaxy in Andromeda. Magnitude 9.9, 13.1 by 2.8 arc-minute, spiral with a lowercase b, 29 million light years distant, and we're at plus 42 degrees. We're not getting any scope blockage that I can tell. So any washout you're seeing there is largely due to A, the moon, and B, the possibility that roof tries are reflecting a little bit of light into the lens. But there you can see the dark bar. Now in terms of wavelengths of light and their magnitudes, the B band, which is like 441 nanometers, and the visual band, which is like 455, which is greenish yellow. The B band is blue-violet. On Galaxies should be diminished, should be fainter than expected due to the fact that its light is being absorbed by intermediate gas and dust. The gas and dust then is excited by the presence of that, and it emits a kind of light that's not visible, which would probably be in the J, H, and K band, so longer wavelength light that is associated with heat, which is the IR radiation bands. And so that's, I would like it to use, if possible, 891 as kind of a baseline for a delta between the visual light brightness of a galaxy and the brighter component, which is the infrared wavelengths. So just like M31 is used as a baseline in terms of galaxy size and maturation, I'm probably going to end up using 891 as a basis for all galaxies that are presenting edge on for comparison purposes. There's our view. Okay, we're now pushing on into the 700 to 750 series of selected galaxies. This is NGC 703, Galaxy in Andromeda. Magnitude 13.3, 1.2 by 0.9 football-shaped lenticular spiral. 227 million light years distant. It's at plus 36 degrees, and we're still at 1 hour 52, and in this case 39 seconds. Now, these galaxies, especially the lenticular spirals, are practically, well, they're a little offset to the right of the Hubble Divoculaires system of morphology. But these are the culmination point for all spirals. Spiral arms are pretty much all blended in. When face on, they should look almost like ellipticals, but if seen at a side, they will be lens-shaped rather than football-shaped. So they are undergoing a transition from the right side of the diagram, where you have your spirals, to the left, where you're having your ellipticals. Not too far from the preceding galaxy is NGC 705, a galaxy in Andromeda. A little bit fainter, magnitude 13.6, but towards the edge on, 4:1 aspect ratio, 1.2 by 0.3. It's a spiral with a lowercase a, 206 million light years distant. We're at plus 36 degrees, and the galaxy is quite present on the screen. In fact, I think I'm getting better views of galaxies now that I turned on IR sensitivity in the camera, and the fact that the focus point was readjusted before this venture, despite the fact we have a 12-day moon. So how's that for being more diligent in the future with both focus and set points? Of course, I've had to sacrifice color, and I won't activate color again until we start running into more nebulae. Right now with galaxies, just go black and white with IR on, sensitivity on. Okay, this is the galaxy group that's associated with NGC 705. This is 708, it's a galaxy, excuse me, in Andromeda. Magnitude 12.7, largest 3 by 2.5 arc minutes, but what makes it interesting? It's an elliptical type 2, which means it's presenting almost round, probably football shape. 215 million light years distant. It's at plus 36 degrees, and I speculate that the delta between visible and infrared light should be narrower on the ellipticals because they've converted, like globular clusters, more of their star stuff into actual stars. So instead of the star stuff absorbing and re-radiating at lower frequencies and wavelengths, actually most of the lights from the stars is actually able to penetrate and space and go out to be perceived by our instruments. Because lenticular galaxies are like at the crux of the Hubble divocular morphological system, I'm kind of placing a lot of emphasis on them for the time being. This is NGC 711, a galaxy in Aries, magnitude 13.1, 1.6 by 0.7, so oblately presented lenticular spiral, 217 million light years distant, in the sky's middle third at 17.5 degrees declination. The interesting thing is I'm not seeing much of this galaxy on the screen. I'm wondering if we're getting a passing cloud. Well, let's just move on then. Okay, so we'll go for another lenticular spiral. NGC 712 is a galaxy in Andromeda and therefore pretty far north, almost 37 degrees. We're not getting any aperture block. It's magnitude 12.8, 1.3 by 1 arc minute, lenticular spiral class O, 242 million light years distant. It's almost 37 degrees in declination, and we're still well shy of hour 2 at NGC 712. The galaxy is quite visible right there on the screen. NGC 714 is another galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 13.1, 1.5 by 0.4 arc minutes, so roughly a 3.5 to 1 aspect ratio, spiral with a lowercase a, 204 million light years distant. We're at plus 36 degrees in the sky's middle third, and the galaxy does look a little bit distended there. Yeah, it's a nice close supra edge-on view of that galaxy. NGC 716, another galaxy in Aries, magnitude 12.9, oblately presented 1.8 by 0.8 arc minutes, spiral with a bar in lowercase a, 207 million light years distant. We're at plus almost 13 degrees, and we're still not close to right ascension hour 2. The galaxy is quite visible right there. NGC 717 is another galaxy in Andromeda, 36 and change north declination. Faintish, magnitude 13.9, but nice aspect ratio, 1.3 to 0.2. That's pretty much a 6 to 1 edge-on spiral with a lowercase a, 229 million light years distant. There may be a little light reflected off the roof try, but the galaxy is definitely showing that it's quite edge-on right there in the middle of the field. NGC 718 is a brightish galaxy in Pisces, although it's a little far south, so we're still probably barely in the sky's middle third. Magnitude 11.7, 2.3 by 2.2 arc minutes, so a nice face-on study, spiral with a bar in lowercase a, 77 million light years distant, so not very large, maybe 50,000–60,000 light years. We're at plus 4 and change degrees in declination. The galaxy is quite visible, however. Selected NGC 719, another galaxy in Aries, because it's middling brightness, 13.2, 1.4 by 1.1 arc minute lenticular spiral, but basically because it's 408 million light years distant, and I've been noticing discrepancies in redshift and distance correlations, and this is one that's further away that should be very helpful in that. At 408 million light years, it roughly should be about 0.03 in terms of the amount of redshift of the spectral band. But hey, I got to look into it more. We're at plus 9, almost 20 degrees in declination. The galaxy is quite present. There are others visible in the same field, which is another area of study, galactic groups, but that's not this year. Okay, we're back to Hubble right there and the galaxy neighboring it. This is NGC 722, galaxy in Aries, magnitude 13.4, 1.7 by 0.5 arc minute, spiral with a lowercase bc, room 222 million light years distant. We're at plus almost 21 degrees. This should be a good test for, let's say, maybe a 12-inch scope. See if you can make out this galaxy in the glare of Hubble. So it might be a nice test for the keen-eyed amateur observers out there of the night sky. We have done a lot of skippage here. There were a lot of deep south galaxies before we got to NGC 732, and a couple of stars, spurious studies that entered the catalog. 732 is a galaxy in Andromeda, 13.5 magnitude, 1.4 by 1 arc-minute, lenticular spiral, 266 million light years distant. We may just be getting a little blockage of the aperture and possibly some reflected light onto the screen. The galaxy is quite present, however. We're at plus almost 37 degrees, and we're about 4 minutes shy of 2 hours in the right ascension. NGC 736 is a 12.1 magnitude galaxy in triangulum. Face on 1.7 by 1.6 arc-minute lenticular spiral, 199 million light years distant. We're at plus 33 degrees in declination, and I do believe we had a meteor passage. Fortunately, it did not block, the trail did not block the galaxy. Well, I thought there was a galaxy in the same field. I believe the last one was NGC 736. This is NGC 738, another galaxy in triangulum, but faint. Magnitude 15.5, 0.4 by 0.2 arc minutes. And yes, I believe the galaxy is right there. And there's an even fainter, larger one there, but this is the previous one. This is our 15.5 magnitude galaxy. Hey, look, the moon's at day 12, and we're looking at 15.5 magnitude galaxies. I am utterly surprised at this. Activating the IR sensitivity of the CCD imager has really been a boon. And no wonder, because the IR magnitudes are typically 3 to 4 magnitudes brighter than the visual magnitude. So there you go. Well, NGC 740 was part of that previous group with 738 in, I believe. 740 is a galaxy in triangular, magnitude 14, 1.4 by 0.3 arc-minute spiral with a bar and a lowercase b, 211 million light years distant. Almost 33, just a little more than 33 degrees in north declination. We're still shy of right ascension hour 2. Nice to be able to pick up a magnitude 14 galaxy. I believe it's this one here, although it doesn't look quite as bright as the 15.5, so who can guess it? Although there's a fainter, larger near edge on right there. Your guess is as good as mine, but this is the part of field we expect to see it in. We had to have a view of NGC 741, a galaxy in Pisces. It's only 5.5 degrees in northern declination, so it's still in the sky's middle third. However, the key to it is it's a magnitude 11.1, 3 by 3 arc-minute size, elliptical 1 class, 248 million light year distant galaxy. E1s are hard to come by, few to come by, and it's right there on the screen. It'll be interesting to do an analysis of its light spread across the blue-violet visual J, H, and K bands in terms of magnitude for this particular Mathematica Galactica series studies. I've got 2 bars left. I want to get into past the 750 before we leave, just to anticipate a future outing. Okay, anticipating the next series in the catalog, NGC 750 to 799. 750 is a galaxy in triangulum, brightish, magnitude 11.9, 1.6 by 1.3 arc minutes. And for this particular study, it's an elliptical 1, like an earlier galaxy. 233 million light years distant. It's at plus 33 degrees. We're getting no blockage of the scope, although we may get some reflected light. The galaxy is got a mate right there. So it's a pair of galaxies, which means this baby here is probably spiraling towards the larger elliptical 1 galaxy, which should be quite large, maybe 120,000 light years in diameter. A good view, and it'll make a nice comparison for when the moon is past, the skies are clear, and I get to get out and start looking at the 750 series. But I will point out the time now is 7, it can't be, it's 7:06, and we're having to look west already to to get to the 750 series. So it's going to be a race. And I'll just cross our fingers and hope for the best. Well, you remember that second galaxy? Well, it is NGC 751, a galaxy in Triangulum. Fainter, magnitude 14, 1.8 by 1.8 arc minutes. It is an elliptical class 0. 240 million light years distant. I think that's pretty much the same as the last one. I have to verify that. We're at plus 33 degrees. We're about 2.5 minutes shy of right ascension 2 hour for NGC 751. Nice galaxy pair with 750. Deserves some online research time. I still got 2 bars left, so let's push on a little bit more. Okay, I'm just capturing this one for the heck of it. It's an open cluster in Andromeda, NGC 752, and I just wanted to go ahead and grab it because it's so far north, but it's visible to the scope. I'll give you some data on it. It's not part of this study. NGC 752 is an open cluster in Andromeda, magnitude 5.7, 50 arc minutes in size, so large. 60 stars, and the brightest are magnitude 9. The stars are very well spread out, but of equal magnitude. It's a class Roman numeral 3, numeric 1, 1500 light years distant. 37, almost 38 degrees, and there we go. A very bright, sprinkling, well-spaced open cluster in Andromeda. Well, we're going to take a little bit because we've got to get the sprinkling of stars from the open cluster off the screen. But we're looking here for NGC 753, a galaxy in Andromeda, brightest, magnitude 12.3, 2.5 by 2 arc minutes. Complicated morphology, spiral with an uppercase B or bar, but a lowercase bc, so it should be several steps away from the lenticular spiral towards the right on the Hubble diagram. 225 million light years distant. We're at almost 36 degrees. We're not getting any blockage, but we could be getting reflected light. We still have yet to achieve the second hour of right ascension, but the galaxy is quite present right there. Frankly, the views we're getting tonight are superior. 1, with the IR engaged. 2, we have good focus than I've had over the last several weeks. So there you go. Got to pay attention to details. Okay, NGC 759 is a galaxy in Andromeda, magnitude 12.7. We might be getting a little blockage. The reason I selected it, it's magnitude 12.7, 1.8 by 1.8 arc minutes. It's a lenticular EO, not a it's an elliptical 0. Perfectly globular shaped elliptical galaxy, 212 million light years distant, with a diameter, it's probably 120,000 light years across. This is a significant galaxy at plus 36.5 degrees. I think what I'll do is, let's see if we can turn up a galaxy in the Messier class just to get a final Carpe Noctem view. But there is NGC 759 right on the screen. Okay, I thoroughly expect Messier 74, galaxy in Pisces at magnitude 9.4, large, 10 by 9.4 arc minutes, 35 million light years distant, to be thoroughly washed out except for its core. I'm going to give it a chance to develop itself, and I'm going to push some buttons on the screen to see if it has any improvement. M74, galaxy Pisces, 9.4 magnitude, 10 by 9.4, face on 35 million light year distant galaxy, so probably about 100,000 light years across. We're at right ascension 136, declination 15 3/4. Now let me go ahead and press some buttons on the screen. It will disturb the scope a little bit, and it will take up some time to recover, but we have 2 bars left on the camera, so why not experiment? So let's run the brightness down to about 10 first. Now what I expect to see happening at a brightness of 10 is a greater disparity between the lower part of the screen and the upper part of the screen. However, we do have moonlight. You can see it is darkening down here and brightening there. So that is the effect of reducing the brightness of the screen. So I'm going to give it a few more seconds to go ahead and fully develop the galaxy view. We really should be seeing spiral arms extended well away from the nuclear core. And we, from my point of view, are not. So we are getting a good deal of sky wash. There are hints of galactic spiral arms well away from the core, but nothing like I would expect on a good view. Let's try it by running it up again a little bit. We'll go to 15 and give it a chance now. What we expect to see now is less of a disparate spread of light between the top and the bottom of the screen. Keep an eye to see, oh, I think it is bringing out, perhaps. Now, you can avert your vision on the screen. It's amazing. Your eye sensitivity will increase if you look to the side of the galaxy, maybe off over here from the galaxy. You're more likely to see the spiral arm if you look right about there. Oh yeah, the spiral arm is becoming clear right there. It's almost like an annularity. So here we go. By boosting it up to, I believe it was 15, we're seeing more of the galaxy. Let's go up to 20. Oh, wrong way. Now, these values should change with the amount of atmospheric reflection. So, you know, it's something I should play with more when I'm doing real-time imaging. Now, I'm able to actually hold the core and the spiral arm at this point of the galaxy. I can see it spiraling off in this direction, right there, the tail of it. Now, I'm having less visibility to this side of the galaxy, although I do see some faintness there. At magnitude 9.4, 10 by 9 arc minutes, we're really talking about something in the 14th average surface brightness range when we're looking at Messier 74. So, okay, let's go one more step up to 20. To really push it, let's go to 30, and I may back it down to 25 afterwards. So now the screen, it looks almost equally bright. A little fainter, darker down here, brighter there. Let's see if we can make out some of that galactic detail that might have been missing before. Now remember, we should be seeing the spiral arm to the 10 o'clock position with hints of nebulosity towards the 3 or 4 o'clock position. I don't think that improved the view at all. Now my eye is probably being overpowered. Let's go to 25 and leave it for our Carpe Noctem view. So we're now at a brightness of 25. I've got 1 bar left on the camera battery. We're going to give it about 10 or 15 seconds. Hopefully the camera battery will last. I'm now making out, it's starting to reveal the spiral arm to the 10 o'clock position. I think I may have disturbed the scope a little bit too much by pushing the buttons. I'm going to leave the brightness at 25. I'm going to go ahead and make this our Carpe Noctem moment.